What's going on? My name's Billy. You may know me by my screen name of B_M_4. I'm just going to do a quick overview of the very basics of making your own Brickarms mods or modding in general. To start off, what I got in my hand right away, a blade, a cutting utensil. That's the basis of everything right there. They come in many fashions. You could have something like this, which is called a scraper blade because of this back piece right here. It allows you to just press in, gives you a nice little grip if you want to get a little angle like that. You can have a blade like this. I don't personally use these anymore, but they work very well, and you're able to get a full like pencil feel almost. And some people prefer that. It's all up to preference. There's no exact way on how you're supposed to do these things. Next up, you have these sprue cutters. Now they're not perfect for getting very precise cutting. But if you were to try to remove a big chunk of plastic, it'll just push right through that real quick. If I wanted to remove this whole stock right here, just right there, it would have taken me, a whole minute of just trying to really press in and cut off. It'll just snip that away right quick. But it comes at a cost, and that you'll need to do a little bit of a post-cutting cleanup with a sanding or likewise. Now, the second essential into any mod would be glue. I use personally Loctite super glue, but any super glue really works. You just untwist that, and with the glue, a tip for it is that when you press it down, you get a palette. Press your glue into the palette first, get a little nice dab there, and using a toothpick, just a general toothpick, you're able to grab that glue up on a little glob and then apply that onto the piece so that you don't have a big flash of the glue after it dries. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Some of the secondary items that might be useful is a sanding material. Again, it comes in many fashions. First off, you could have a metal file, which will allow you to remove a lot of plastic quickly, but it comes at a cost of it being very abrasive. So after you use something like this, you might want to come in with a higher grit sandpaper to get rid of that and make it smooth. Now, the way the grits work on sandpaper, as you can see here, there's 1500, 2500, it goes as low as 100, and it can go as high as 5000, 6000, etc. For the purpose of this, you might deal in the range of like 500 to 2000, 2500. And the higher the number is, the finer and the more clean your product will finish as. So if you're trying to clean something up, you want to use a high grit so that it polishes it. This is a little worn out. I've got a lot of use out of it. But this is just a nail filing kit that you could find at like CVS, stuff like that, which is just basically a bunch of sandpaper. So you'd have a really coarse grit right here. That means it's very low. And it works up, and normally will have an indication of the steps, and those steps correspond to it getting a higher and higher grit. Eventually, to something called buffing and the shine, which will allow the plastic to almost look original. Those are very helpful. Finally, something that could be helpful is something to grip a very small piece with. Little pliers right here. You could have tweezers or this little grip thing, which is very helpful if you're waiting for something to dry so that it doesn't knock over. And just look at that right there. So, let's get into the modding. All right. I'm just going to do a quick, simple little mod to demonstrate everything. All I'm going to do is cut off this little scope right here that's on the standard Brickarms AUG and replace it with a M27 AUG scope that I cut off previously. And I'll show you a little cleanup on this cut beforehand. If we're going to go right into it, using this blade, I'm just going to press it right here onto the table and try and line up, a nice little cut on the scope. And then just press in like that. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Now, this might be a little bit difficult to see, but there's going to be a little bit of excess plastic there. It might happen. Sometimes you have a clean cut and there's nothing. I like to just go back with the razor blade, and this is a little ill-advised to cut towards yourself, but it gives a bit more control, but you have to be very, very careful with doing such a thing. It's always best to cut away from yourself when possible or onto a surface. And just like that. And now, even with that little bit, I'm going to want to come in with my 1500 grit, which is providing me a little bit of a, it'll get rid of some material without destroying the surface really bad. And we'll just make that real nice and clean. Just like that. And now if you really like to, after you've done that, gotten it nice and smooth, you could come in with your even higher grit so that it polishes a little bit. And I like to fold the sandpaper a bit, and it gives me a little bit more control and more force that I can put into the weapon without it just getting all over the place. And like if I was going to do it this way, I don't know if I'm sanding off the side or the corner. So just kind of folding it into a tip can be really helpful in getting a precise sanding area. Now that that's done, let's just clean up this cut a little bit. It's just a little uneven. So I like to, if it's a little uneven, just eye it up, try and get a nice look at the cut you have, and I'll try and even it preemptively with the blade just a little bit. Like if there's any really excess plastic, but you don't want to do it too much, otherwise you might take off too much. Now next you could come in, I'm going to try with the file just a little bit of the file work so that it'll get a majority of it out. And now with files, the way they work is you want to go one direction. You don't go back and forth with a file unlike you can do with sandpaper. So just one direction, push it forward, and it'll remove the plastic. Just gonna go in my 2500 grit right here. Fold it down a little bit and just clean it up. Give it a little bit more polish. You won't see that in the final product, but it gives you a nice even surface to apply the glue onto, which will help you in the long run. Alright, now we're just up to the gluing right here. So, what you're going to want to do, like I teased earlier, is you get your glue, no matter what glue you have, and it's best to apply it onto some surface. I have this little palette here. You could just put it onto a business card, piece of paper, the end back of your sandpaper, no matter. A little dab right there. Grab a little glob on your toothpick, and I'm going to apply to the scope. Now you don't want to apply too much. If you have too much, it'll spray out the sides, and that will make a white residue after the glue dries. So just a little bit, just a nice thin little covering if you want. Mine turned out to be little dots. And now you're going to just try your best to line up the scope onto your gun. So you could gently place it on there, adjust what needs to be adjusted, let it sit, check it from angles, right on. And there you go. So now, if I wanted to set it to dry, I'll just put it on this little clamp, have it sit on my desk until it's completely dry, and then I can look at the final product afterwards. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know any other tutorials you might be interested in seeing.